Welcome to season 2 of It Takes a Family, a podcast that helps take parenting from desperation to hope. I'm one of your hosts, Andy.
And I'm your co-host, Kelly. Once a week, we highlight experts and other parents like you who have been in the trenches of parenting, bringing hard lessons learned and insights on how to navigate even the most difficult of family circumstances.
So this season, we are tackling the Gen Z mental health crisis head on using groundbreaking research from the Barna Group and Dr. Stephanie Shackelford.
And we've broken the season down into 6 vital themes, everything from navigating technology to caring for our own health as parents. We're splitting each topic into 2 parts. In part 1, we look at the data and practical tips with Dr. Shackelford. And in part 2, we bring in a guest to share with us ideas on how to implement them in our homes.
So today's episode is a part 2. It's a part 2 around creating tech-free spaces. We have a very special guest with us today to kind of help us navigate and think through this.
Yes. Rachel, we are so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Very glad to be here.
Yes, thank you for being with us. Just a quick bio on Rachel. Rachel is the director of the Institute for Family-Centered Healing and Health at the Christian Alliance for Orphans. She has a Master's of Science in Psychology and Neuroscience of Mental Health from King's College in London, with a focus on children who have faced serious adversity. She's also the author of When There is Crisis. My favorite part about, thank you, Andy.
Showing all the people.
Yep. It's a real book. She's also a bio mom, a foster mom, and an adoptive mom. So we are just super thankful to have you with us here today.
Thank you.
And I'll just say, when I was at the Christian Alliance for Orphans conference, I picked up a copy because I was like, yeah, this is important. As a adoptive parent, I want to have the tools and the resources around, hey, how do we support our children best? And I'm so grateful for you, the Institute, the organization as a whole that's helped people like me know, hey, there's a place for resources and a place for us if and when things do go from, hey, this is challenging to, hey, this is a crisis. So thank you so much for your work. All right, so we could talk about a lot of things because you are helpful in so many spheres in this child care space, if you will, and particularly around family flourishing. But today in particular, we want to talk technology, and we want to kind of narrow our focus around these creating tech-free spaces. And I know I've heard you speak about it. I've heard your husband, Jed, speak about it some. And so I'm excited to get some of your expertise. But I want to start where we almost always start on the podcast, and that is kind of still framing it within a family because it is a family issue. So tell us about the family you grew up in and the one you lead now.
Yes, very glad to. Thank you for having me on, and I'm happy to share about my family of origin as well as my own family that I have and I'm raising now because these have been extremely formative spaces for me. My parents actually became Christians right before I was born, and it transformed their lives. And they, within a few years, became missionaries in the Philippines. And so when I was 5, we moved overseas. And at that point, there were 3 kids, and I'm in the middle. And then we spent the next 13 years serving in Manila. And I was 18 when we came back to the U.S. And we were church planting. And so I was very involved in just the life of the church several times a week. And we adopted my baby brother while I was there. So there were 4 of us then. And I will just add, in terms of my growing up years, I was so blessed to be highly involved in our ministry as a family. We really were ministering as a family, and particularly to be able to benefit from friends and friendships that were not only peers, but also people who were maybe 10 years older than me, who really mentored me and walked alongside me in life in really significant ways. that have been enduring goods in my life, and I can attest to. And I could speak about many other things, but even just growing up outside of the U.S. context, another culture was of great value. So that was my childhood. And then now I am married to my husband, Jed Medefind, who leads the Christian Alliance for Orphans. And in just the last couple of years, I've come to work with him in that more directly, although in the past I had other ways of serving in that space as well. But we've raised and are still raising 5 children. And our youngest is now 13. Our oldest is almost 22, just graduated from college. And our middle daughter is adopted from Ethiopia. Okay. And so she's smack dab in the middle, and that's fun. And at an earlier stage, we were foster parents as well. And that was actually a very precious experience for our whole family. Mm-hmm. Our youngest was 4 at the time. And so that's the makeup of our family. And we live in Northern Virginia, in Falls Church, Virginia.
Wow. I feel like when we ask this question, almost always I have like 7 follow-ups.
I know.
And I want to like go all the way down like, all right, so Rachel comes back on the missionary kid episode, right? Like right. We don't have one of those planned, but we need to.
That's a good one. Right? That's a good one.
That one, maybe it's a season, the missionary kid one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I think the thing that struck me as you were talking though, more than anything was like adoption. And this work has been a part of your story from the beginning.
That's right.
And working alongside people and administrating. So that's I mean, what a cool testament of the Lord as he's worked that into your story. Mm-hmm. And then to meet Jed and to pursue that. And then now as your role in the Christian Alliance for Orphans, I just, God's really great.
Yeah,
I think that's beautiful. What I was getting at.
Yeah.
And he knows what he's doing.
It's really true. And you don't know when you're walking through it that's going to be the case. I mean, I think some people feel a clear calling from a young age. I did not. But what I'll tell you that it did to have an adopted brother is it becomes a normal thing. And you're not afraid of it. And you don't think it would be strange to grow your family through adoption or through foster care. So I think that helped.
Hey, how old are your 2 kids that are between the 13-year-old and the 22-year-old?
So 22, almost 20. I can't believe I'll have 2 in their 20s. And then 17, 16, and 13, almost 14.
Okay. So this whole technology thing,
you are
speaking from.
You got it. Yes, it's going to be fun to talk about.
All right. So as you're talking to people, meeting people, interacting with folks across different spectrums, sort of how do you find parents are feeling about technology and their kids? Why is that?
Yeah. I think parents feel, overwhelmed and exhausted by it. It feels like you're trying to, hold up a wall with your hands.
Right.
And it's always changing. Right now, the conversation has to shift to AI and how do we figure that out? Mm-hmm. And so I think there's that constant sense of like, this is just too much to handle. And it's also just really stressful. What do I not know? Or what am I not doing that I ought to do that I'm going to find out that I wasn't doing and that caused problems? I think that's also, there's just fear. I think also parents feel a certain measure of like lack of confidence that are the choices I make and the boundaries I set or try to set or wish I set, are they going to cause my child to like resent me permanently?
Sure.
Are they, am I going to realize I made wrong choices? And it can be paralyzing. So I think a lot of times the action that parents desire to do but are uncertain about cause them to perhaps not step into the position of loving authority that they might otherwise because of uncertainties. I'll just add one other thing, though. I do think that 5+ years ago, there was so much less knowing, so much less knowledge, so much less guidance than we have now. And so there is there's beginning to be, I think, some clarity, like both around, like, say, harms of social media and, maybe norms that we could be establishing about limits on technology that are becoming more shared.
Yeah.
So that parents don't feel as much as in the past, like I could never put a limit because I would permanently harm my child because no one else is doing it. Right. And And also just, so you develop these norms, and that helps. And you also recognize more clearly what's beneficial and what's not. That's good. But I think it also is anxious steering in some ways, because you just get lots of information and guidance, right? So I think it's a swirl of all those things, and probably other things as well.
A swirl is a good word. And even as you were like talking, there's this thought of mine, like my children, if I ever say, hey, we're going to do more technology, they never fight me. Like, hey, we are going to increase video game time by 4 hours. Like, no argument. But if I say, hey, 5 minutes less, it is as if I've told them, hey, we're going to take everybody's pinky. Like, we're cutting off pinkies today, right? Like, and it's that thing. So as a parent, you do wonder, like, am I ruining it? All my friends have a blank. And we don't. And I'm like, maybe I am the worst parent ever. And so I've got to be like very principled in that moment of, no, I know this is right for us. And this is what we're going to do.
Well, it makes me think about one of the things that Stephanie said, this idea of, because there is so much information and we're just overloaded with information, that we almost kind of freeze. Like, what are we supposed to do? Yeah. And I know Stephanie talked about maybe starting from a place of, hey, what is our family's values? Like, which is kind of a different question, but it really dovetails into this whole tech thing. Is that your experience also? Is that a good place to start?
Oh, it's the best place to start. Okay. And I think,
so talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's tricky because, we have to actually spend time thinking. And
oh no, Andy, this is the worst news ever.
I'd like more of a quick solution actually than to think. That doesn't sound right.
Well, yeah, it is. I think one of the things we don't do as much of as we ought, right?
Right. Sure.
What is it that picturing? I think what is it that we envision? What's the good that we intend? What do we imagine our family, a day in the life of our family looking like if it were to be all that we desired it to be? And when we limit ourselves to the question of technology, when at what point does that include technology and what points doesn't it? But you have to have a vision first of like, what is our life together? What do we want it to feel like? How do we want it to flow? What do we want our relationships to be like? And what are we especially leaning into? What are we driving at in life? What are we saying? We want more of this and less of this. So having a set of a clarity about that. And so as a Christian, for me, we want our family to be growing in a life of love toward God, love for one another, and love for others, and having meaningful ways to exercise that love across a day. Okay. Whether it's, spending time with God, spending time together as a family, growing in our faith together as a family, praying together, whatever it may be, pursuing the things that we sense the Lord has called us to do. Often those are ordinary things like work and academics, but also ways of serving others. And those become our big rocks.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like it sometimes when you're having just a conversation about technology and how much and not enough and too much, it's like it can get really confusing really fast. Like, what are we even arguing about? So I love this idea, kind of those big rocks. Like, what are the big rocks for our family? And then we sort of put up boundaries around the things to help protect the rocks, kind of, so to speak. So.
I think you have to have a positive, worthwhile vision for what you're aiming at as a family. You need it as a parent to fuel the principles you're going to enforce, which is on no given day going to be easy. Right. And then children need it because they need to see that what you're aiming at is worth it. They need to know that the thing you're calling them toward is of value, it's substantive, it's something. And that is going to, in the end, be the thing that will orient their heart to be willing to say, I'll do 5 less minutes
Right.
because we value serving. So I don't feel like setting the table and putting aside my technology for 5 minutes, but actually that's what my family does. It's who we are.
Right.
And I see why it matters. And so I think you have to have that basis, and then you can think about, where does technology fit in as a valuable tool?
Mm-hmm.
In what ways does it support, and in what ways is it impeding? But how do we continually grow into that life of love that we desire?
So you've spoken to the values a little bit. Can you get practical? You've even spoken a little bit to this, but like practically for you, for the Medefind family, like some of those rhythms, if you're willing to share, like what are some of those rhythms that you would say, hey, these are kind of the things that we've set up to say, these are maybe our family's technology rules. This is what we're doing and not doing.
Yeah.
Because we've created a vision for a good life of love and service and so forth.
Yeah. So from early on, Jed and I decided not to use social media. That was a big deal for us. And also from the start, we just really wanted to, and we've had to learn along the way how to do this.
You guys have been able to survive without social media.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Okay.
We didn't know at the beginning, right? Like,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like when social media got started, yes, you have the impression that you couldn't get by without it.
Okay.
And so it was a risk in a sense, but we've done just fine.
You look fine.
I guess that's what I was getting at.
And I love that you started with you and your husband first, as opposed to, okay, kids, you're going to get off social media. You're saying you and your husband are saying,
and at the time we weren't even thinking about our kids because they were still little. I mean, we knew we would have to, but and then having meaningful limits. So it did start with us very much having meaningful limits on our technology use. And we had to figure that out as we went along. In part, you figure it out because you realize like certain things are like the pull, the sense, the addictive feeling that you have to like check your phone or use it at a time when you really know that time is for something else. Those are good cues that we would talk about and make some decisions about. So I can tell you specifics, but I really wanted to let you know that that's kind of been the baseline. I mean, I do just a little bit of LinkedIn. I feel just like occasionally, like once or twice a month, and I don't scroll for social media at all. So that's the basis. But we decided with our kids that they didn't need smartphones. And as kids, and so no smartphones, no social media, and that was when, frankly, like it did feel like no one was doing it. So it did feel risky in a sense.
So do you have an age that the smartphone gets introduced?
Well, I mean, we kind of say when one of our kids gets their driver's license, we can think about what their needs are. But one of our sort of principles is we want to match the actual needs that they have to the tool that we give them. So we want it to be a good match, right? Like if they don't need a full smartphone, then we don't want to give them one. We want to give them just the basic thing that they need, which honestly, like for most of childhood, you just need like say a flip phone or a very limited device. So just everything in research has come to really back up that type of choice. So we have to start from a basis of a lot of limits. And I think the kids have actually come to really appreciate that. And then when we do introduce the smartphone, we have our kids write out their own rule for themselves that we discuss with them. And we sign it with them. So they're deciding the principles that they want to guide. Often they reflect the things that we've chosen.
Right.
And then they have a learning process ahead after that, right? Because they're going to encounter how challenging it is as an adult to make those decisions. And then we walk with them through it. So that's kind of been the basis of the policy. But then I would just add that we have a day-to-day life to live. And so we set up structures in our home that try to, and we have to tweak it sometimes as we go along, but try to really give life to those core values that we especially want to emphasize. And to do that, we have certain structures in our home. We start our day, or we all get up by 6:00 in the morning, and our first half hour is for prayer. And so that is a no tech time. And then the kids go straight from that to chores, and they're doing their chores. And then we run. We like to run in our house. That's kind of and the kids are in track and field and cross country. So they head out for a run. Even in the winter, we're like getting out. And so by the time it's 9 a.m, like in our home, we've spent time in prayer. We've done some work. We've been probably outside and moving our bodies, seen the sunrise, and then we've had breakfast together. And so 9 a.m. is kind of like, well, now you get out your device because now you need it, right? You may need it for some paper you're writing, some academic work. We homeschool our kids. So I help structure their time when they're doing their academics. And even there, I really want them to have the feeling of like a pen and a piece of paper where we can, there's a lot of research showing that even in the space of academics or work, when you use pen and paper, there's additional benefits to the processes of thinking and your cognitive abilities, your focus. So even in the spaces where we would say a yes to tech, I would still want to be thoughtful about it. Like, do you always need it? And how do you be thoughtful in those times to also make sure that you're not just like flipping back and forth between, say, email and messages to the paper you're writing, like with times where you shut those things down and open them back up. I mean, it's overwhelming how many like limitations you have to set for yourself. But and then the last thing I'll say is that we just really try to spend the last hour of the day without a device. I feel like I'm still like growing in that area. I often find myself there's always kind of a reason where I'm like, oh, my mom might have called, but trying to just say that last hour is not really for like checking anything on your phone. It's just a time to unwind. It's just a special time for other things. And of course there's so much sleep research showing how valuable that is to support good sleep.
I was going to say, since y'all get up so early every day, that's the rhythm. Do y'all have sort of a bedtime or a guideline for bedtime? Yeah,
less so now, but like the younger ones, it's pretty early because we do get up early, 8:30ish, heading to bed, maybe doing some reading in bed but without devices. And the sleep issue is huge. And of course, sleep connects to emotional well-being, connects to relational and behavioral health, connects to spiritual health. Like what you do with your devices in the evening and like where your device is. We don't have any devices in our bedrooms. It's just all the devices are perched elsewhere in a shared space. And that's to support good sleep. And just healthy practices, right?
Right.
So we've just built those things over time. It wasn't like all in a day, just to clarify, but they support the life we want to live, and they support well-being in relationships. They support physical health, emotional health. And I feel it, honestly, I feel it every day. And if I do a day differently than that, I feel that too.
Interesting. What would you say to the parent who's listening and thinking, Rachel, that sounds awesome. And if I was newly married and expecting a child, this is what I would do. But, I've got a 12-year-old and the cat's already out of the bag. I'm sure you hear that a lot in your work.
Yeah.
And what thoughts do you have, or baby steps, ideas do you have for the parent who really feels like, man, I know sometimes I feel like, man, I blew it, or.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the position of most of us. And we've made mistakes too, where we're like, oh, okay, we got to backpedal here. And you don't realize you're there till you're there. Right.
Yeah. It's funny how that works.
Well in. So, I mean, I do probably relate more than it sounds like. And we built these things over a vast amount of time. Right. So that's the other thing is you pick one thing. And what's incredible and encouraging about the research is that, cutting out 30 minutes of social media, cutting out an hour of scrolling on the internet, taking off your internet app on your phone, all of those things actually measurably and significantly benefit the human being and their relationships. And so you don't have to do everything, but pick a couple things, maybe a few of the things that I've mentioned, pick something that is nagging you, that like, this is something I've been thinking about for a long time, and do it at least in small measure, but try to do it consistently. And talk about it as a family, see if you can do it together. Yeah. So that would be generally what I would say. I do feel confident it will make a difference if you are willing to stick with one thing and be willing to make incremental changes. The other thing I would say is that if it were I might find it more likely to be effective to just make some drastic changes with the use of technology if we're in a really bad place, because otherwise you're kind of haggling over lots of little decisions, and it's just constant versus saying, we're going to get rid of devices. It's not working in our house. We're going to get rid of them for a year, and then we're going to incrementally build them back in. And speaking from the position of working with families whose children have experienced early adversity, maybe are struggling in areas of behavior, of self-regulation, self-control, technology only makes that far more difficult. And the timeline perhaps within which you might want to introduce technology might need to be prolonged or postponed, because you need to give them more time to be able to successfully use the technology. So I just think having the courage to say, we know what we think will bring the most benefit. We might get it wrong. We'll tweak it as we go, but I'm willing to lean in. Yeah. I'm willing to lean in and take the flack. And because I'm devoted to the long-term good of my family and my child. Yes. And so I'm willing to do it.
Wow. Yeah. And in some ways, I've heard really smart people talk about that, like, technology is forming us. That, like, when we do this, as I hear you say that with, like, your examples, like, the technology is doing something in us that's sort of, like, forming in us, even if we don't recognize or don't see it. So in what way is, like, we're not just talking technology, we're actually talking about spiritual formation at some level too. So, like, can you talk a little bit about why you would see this as a spiritual formation versus a behavior issue? Yeah. Because something's happening. It's not a net zero when I sit and scroll on something. That's right. What's your focus on that, or what's your perspective?
Yeah, I think that maybe the best way to begin to think about it is that everything that we do at all times, and especially the things we do regularly, are forming us constantly. They're the machinery that is guiding our formation. Okay. So what are the things we're doing regularly? Those we can be sure are forming and shaping us and our children. And I think having a picture, starting with a picture of, like, what is it that we want to be formed in us? What sort of character? What sort of commitments? What sort of deep held values? What sort of health? Physical health. Right. We want, let's say we want a young person to grow up with courage, with willingness to do hard things, being devoted to the good of others. These are aspirations, but on the other hand, there are just day-to-day choices that are going to either be contributing to that or pulling away from it. Sure. And so technology surely shapes us. I mean, there's the obvious ways in which it is the direct harms of the actual content. Right. Just the perspectives that are flooding into the home, as well as the ways it's shaping our attentional capacities, and our sense of ourself. So there's all these direct impacts. But in some ways, one of the most impactful impacts is the ways that the time used for tech is actually going to be displacing so much good that ought to otherwise be in our lives, whether it's time outdoors or sleep, as we were talking about, or time spent alone in order to be with God, time spent in-person human relationship. Yes. So, yes, the answer is yes in every way. Worth thinking about.
I guess as we're kind of getting close to the end here, and as I'm thinking about this, I'm trying to kind of figure out how I want to phrase this question or put it. But at the ranch, we often talk about family systems, and there can be, if you're a parent who's struggling, there can be a little bit of a sense of like, I need to fix something. Like it's broken and I need to fix it. And I think your work particularly has helped me kind of like reframe that a little bit out of like, oh, it's my family's broken or the family I grew up in is broken and this to like this idea of it's the family's the primary way that forms us. So can you speak to, that's how I'll get to the question. Can you speak to what I just talked about? Ready to go. I didn't have a good question in there.
I think that's so good. I think you're touching on something that's really beautiful in itself to think of, that the family is one of the primary places wherein each one of us as parents and also as children and together are formed and have the capacity to grow. Yeah. And as Christians, again, I think our desire is to grow into a life of love. And so how do we do that? And one of the things I often say is that the home is to be a place where we are each received exactly as we are. And also that we anticipate for one another growth. And it's both things, both dimensions is what a home is meant to be. And that's how flourishing is ultimately developed, right? That we're willing, we're desiring the good of another person in such a way that we receive them in the position they're in. And we ourselves are received in that way. And also we seek to grow together. And so, in terms of this whole discussion around technology, like that in some ways you could think of even the challenges that we're facing in a family when we have conflict around technology, even that conflict itself is an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to re-examine what we value, to have meaningful conversation about it. To lean into something that we especially want and to do it when it's hard, and to see some fruit on the other side of it. Right. And so I just think that core vision of being together, loved as we are, and also desiring and expecting to grow, and that we have a role to play in that together is so supportive of this discussion around technology.
Hey, I want to ask maybe if we can close with, I've had the chance to hear you speak a few times and we've spent a little bit of time together. And one of the things that was just so encouraging to me as a parent, talking to you was just sharing some of the fun things that you guys do as a family. So this idea of, okay, we now have 2 extra hours a day because we're not on our devices. Like, can you just talk a little bit about some of this is a fun family, Andy. It rivals your fun family because you have a fun family too. But
we do,
can you just share?
They seem more fun.
Well, I don't know, but they are really, but I mean, I just love the creativity that's able to come as a result of having time to be together.
Yeah. Well, we do. We do love to have fun together. I'm trying to remember what you and I were talking about in that regard, but man, I feel like having the blockades of tech and it still invades our home more than I would like, but opens up so many. Like I love to read aloud to the kids, so we are, well, as a family, so that's one of the things we love to do in the evenings. And I don't know what we were talking about.
We were talking about. I think you were. It's like the Medefinds don't just go on vacation; they go on a mission trip for their vacation. Which I'm like, I've never really thought about that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we did that was super no tech, I'll tell you, it was wild. It was such an adventure. We did love it, but it was kind of out of the ordinary. Is we spent how many days? I think 25 days on the trail, meaning we were backpacking without any tech at all. What trail? This is the John Muir Trail. Okay. The John Muir Trail.
I know about the John Muir Trail.
Oh, yeah. It's on the Pacific Crest Trail. Okay. And we backpacked straight for 25 days, all 7 of us. So yeah, that was really fun. And it was wild.
Fun.
This was last summer.
Okay.
No. I guess it's a little more than a summer ago. No, where are we? We're in January.
So
a summer and a half
youngest is
ago.
13, so they were able to carry, they were able to carry their own pack at this point.
Yeah,
and
Phoebe was 12 and she carried her own pack. I mean, she learned what she thought she couldn't do, she could do.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
No, but I do. I love that. But back to our original conversation of like, it takes time to think about, okay, well, what would we do with that time?
Yeah.
And there's so many great resources and ideas for that.
Yeah.
So.
And you don't have to go onto the John Muir Trail to go outdoors as a family together and spend time away from all that stuff and be in nature and the created world. And so I'd highly recommend anything in that vein.
Awesome. Well, this has been great.
Yes.
Rachel, thank you so much. I think you've given some great thought. I love the idea of the family as the place of formation, and therefore, like we're drawing our values out of that, opposed to just a fight because we think it's bad.
Yes.
But instead, we're creating a vision for a life that's good, and that is one that's not owned by technology, but uses technology as a tool. So, thank you.
Good.
This has been so wonderful. And anybody who listened today, we know you enjoyed it because it was really great. And so whether you're feeling the weight of the digital world or just trying to build a thicker community for your kids, we hope this episode gave you a sense of hope.
Yes. And, remember, this is a 2-part conversation. So we do just appreciate the practicality and the realness that you brought to this topic. And then I'm excited that we'll tune in next week to learn more about tackling the Gen Z medical health crisis and our talk with Dr. Shackelford.
So if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. It is the best way for other parents to find this community.
Yeah. And always feel free to connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. Unless you're on a fast, then don't do that. Don't do it. But we want to hear, how you are implementing some of these practical ideas with your own family.
We would be really excited if we got like a letter in the mail that said we got off Instagram, but we want to connect with you.
I think we would send them a T-shirt.
I'll send them a T-shirt. We don't even have T-shirts for this podcast,
some.
but we're making one for the person who does that. All right, Christine.
And Rachel's book.
Christine, get on that. All right, thanks again for listening. Have a wonderful week.